Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's call. The first agenda item is to go through the current sprints and to see if there's any tickets need to be discussed. Simon, maybe just give like a brief update on those two CDM forms. I know that there's some progress made this week.
Yeah, there's quite some progress. So far, I'm doing the last item on the health center form, and I'm going to attach it to the ticket so that guys can just have a look to have a feel of how the form can be used. And my next thing I'm going to work on is the reminders. There were a few changes to the health center form. I mean, a few clarifications here and there we did, and I'm glad we were able to resolve those ones quick enough in consultation with Dr. Kirui and the FCT.
And Simon, so another ticket I would like to give update is updating mUzima to be compatible with OpenMRS 1.1.5. So we did some initial setup and things like that to make sure that we have the right modules and the modules can start with the problems and things like that. So now we can get all the required modules and to start along with mUzima to start. The only challenge right now I have is that after creating a new form template, the mUzima form module main page cannot be loaded. We haven't got a chance to figure out what the problem is, but I just want to share that. So this whole ticket just basically to document all the testing steps, and also if there's any new issues arise, and we'll document on this ticket, and then we will create other tickets to solve specific issues. So that's pretty much what the current status is right now. And also Simon start to tag the mUzima modules to make sure that it's clearly to show that whether the module can support which version of the OpenMRS. Any concerns or questions on this one? Okay. If not, I think those are the tickets that we have like make progress, and another one is the making just to test on the cohort, expand the cohorts module to see how we are and do the iteration and things like that. And I would discuss we'll discuss this further in another agenda item later after this one. So those are the tickets I would like to talk about today. Is there any other tickets anyone will talk about before we move to the next agenda item? Okay. If not, go ahead. Okay. If not, we can move. Martin, go ahead.
No, I said nothing for me.
Okay. Okay, let's move to the next agenda item, which is to expand the cohort and data discussions. So we did some initial prep work just to document, how things are right now, and then what's the current workflow it is right now, and then what additional features that we need to have in order to make it more implementation ready. So that's pretty much what we have for this page. So maybe we can just go through together in case some of you did not get a chance to read it. in order to have the expanded cohort module to work, it's required to install the reporting compatibility module, because inside this it includes the cohort builder. As OpenRS, remove cohort builder as the core and put it under the reporting compatibility module. That's why if you just install the OpenRS right now, the cohort builder doesn't come with it. You need to install this module in order for the cohort builder to show up. So that's one thing. That's one new thing for some of us. And right now, the expanded cohort module is also built on top of the cohort builder. So the workflow is that you will need to save a cohort through cohort builder. And right now, it doesn't require actually, it doesn't save the cohort definitions. So basically, we just take advantage of the framework of the cohort builder just to define the cohort name and then the descriptions. And then from there, we'll go to the expand the cohort module and then pull this predefined definition very similar to the same mUzima form and the core managed form definitions, the same thing. And then we can add a new one, and then we can pull this predefined cohort name and through this drop down. And once you pull, and then the description also would be populated. The only missing part right here is that you need to input the cohort definition, which is the query. And then as you can see here, the query is just right here. And then if you want it to be run on a predefined schedule, you can just take this checkbox and then save it. And then it will put in the, and then it will be included in the schedule task. It will run in a predefined time frame, so that the cohort member list will be updated. And that's pretty much what the current version of the expanded cohorts module is right now. I think that it needs to have more enhancement in order to make it like implementation ready. The first thing is that right now we don't have any metadata, the data structure to capture that whether when this cohort members first eligible, become active for this cohort, and when is no longer be eligible for the cohort and things like that. So we come up with like the suggested column, like active. It's just like a marker to one indicate that this member is currently being active for this cohort, and then 0 means that inactive. And then the first active days, the most recent active dates, inactive days, so that we have more information to track the movement of the cohort member to be eligible for these cohort definitions. It looks like the cohort member table might be a good spot for having this data structure change, since the cohort member table is part of the now under the OpenRS reporting capability modules, and we need to discuss with OpenRS community to make sure that this is the right approach to do that or not. Simon and I have already scheduled to be on the design call next Wednesday, so that we can present our case to them, whether they will accept our proposal. If not, what are the other alternative for us to do that? So maybe I should just pause here before I move to the next must-have items. Just want to hear from you guys whether you think this makes sense, or in terms of the data structure change, what other additional information that we should capture as well. So now it's open for you guys. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
What if someone joins and basically leaves a cohort and joins again, how will that work? Will they just become different rows on the relevant table? Because you can
I'm
imagine
sorry. Go ahead, Martin. I could not hear the first part. Sorry, Martin.
somebody can be part of a cohort and then leave the cohort and then come back to the cohort. Will that data be captured, or will you lose that information over time because it gets overwritten?
Yeah. So this is the same discussion we have with Barry Group. I just want to bring it up here as well. So what I have in mind is that to have like a setting features and options, and to allow different implementation to decide whether, hey, I would like to when this like delta sync, I want to be able to define whether I want my cohort delta sync, want just like adding new information. Even though someone may no longer be eligible for my core, I still want those information to stay in my device. Or they can choose the option that, hey, I don't want that and only want the most active information. So I think what I have in mind is that what I'm trying to propose is that we want to give more than one options for the implementation, because they must have their their reason for that needs, instead for us to say that, oh, you have to keep everyone, or um, you can only have the one option to keep the most active one. So that's what I have in mind. So to add like a setting options for them to specify how they want to capture, for this delta sync.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And would it make sense for Vikas to be on the design call too, just so that he hears the conversation, or it's a little bit too premature?
Yeah, I think maybe it's good for us just to present our case first, and if Wisha has time, I think it would be good for him just to listen, because I think maybe right now he's still on the stage, like getting himself familiar. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So basically, I just want to have like more options, so that we don't later come back saying that another implementation say, oh, I want the opposite, or I want the other one, and then we have to redo again. Yeah. Okay. Anyone? Simon, do you want just to share your view on this one, so that maybe you can explain in a different way?
Yeah, I think you've already explained exactly what the intention is.
Okay.
I'm in agreement. The current workflow for the expanded cohort module and the missing features in terms of tracking when the member met the criteria or qualified to join the cohort, and when the member no longer qualifies to join that cohort. I think that captures exactly what we want to know. But maybe as an additional, I don't know whether it was part of Martin's question. If, for example, a member met the criteria and they became part of a cohort, and then at some point they no longer meet that criteria, and then sometimes again in future generations, the member again qualifies to be part of that cohort. So that kind of movement in and out of a cohort, I don't know whether we shall be able to capture such scenarios.
Yeah, I think if we include all the additional column, and it would be able to give us the options to keep this movement. Like for example, if we just simply have like last, the reason I want to get the most recent sync dates, and then the last the most recent inactive dates. This would help us to find the least delta difference between the data synchronization in case that such case happen, so that it will reduce the data transmission for the downloading part. So I think with that information, let's say that, if on the next bullet point, let's say that, they say, oh, I want to keep everyone in my I don't want to. I only want to keep like the most active the most active members. I don't want anyone who's no longer eligible. And then from there, we can simply just say that, go through the marker column, saying that, oh, anyone who become one since last thing information, and then with the last inactive day, and then we can do a really really quick transaction to figure out what exactly information to be downloaded. That's what I think that's why it's good to have more columns so that we can perform different combination of the calculations.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will give us like faster transactions. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know whether this is sufficient and additional columns. Maybe there's as we discuss with them next Wednesday, maybe they will give us other suggestions. Maybe we need to have some other things to consider to capture as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So actually, the next bullet point is exactly what Martin's questions. This is exactly what we have in mind, that to let them to be customized, whether they want to to keep only seeing the active members or all members ever in this cohort, or your specific different options. So this is exactly what Martin asked about earlier. Another one is optional setting, like a time, like a new feature, like to get a notification to remind the user that, hey, it's time, it's about, you haven't really checked on your cohort update information. Maybe you need to connect, have the internet connection now, and do you want to do the, it's kind of like a reminder for them, because we know that some of the providers, they keep their device offline pretty much for a very, very, very long time. And so we have an options that on the local repo saying that, hey, you haven't let them to set like a reminder for themselves, to remind them, hey, you need to get online and proceed with the synchronization of the cohort data and things like that. I don't know if it's like a necessary options or not from you guys' perspective. That's important? Okay, good. Because I noticed that some, as some of you guys know, I'm sure like Lawrence and Derek can tell us that some of them, some of the providers, they never sync their information for a long time, and then the next time you realize, oh, you have over 100 of like complete form data that needs to be synced. And I think maybe they will be missing some of the clients that they need to focus on the cohorts, but they did not know that, or things like that. Or maybe they end up doing the creating all these new records and then create all this duplication, and later on, and they go to the error queue and they require more resources for resolving. So I think maybe we can consider for this option, not just for the syncing cohorts information, but also for them to remind them that time to send your complete form data, or get the complete to update the form templates. What do everyone think?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Quick question. I think it's actually an important point in terms of just reminding them in general if they haven't connected. And so my suggestion would be that that part shouldn't necessarily get tied to just the cohort piece, but more just having them connected, because
yes,
ideally it would be good to be running a few features in the background, okay, or at least to be running a few things as a batch whenever they get connected. My suggestion would be for the delta, and people can tell me what they think, is whenever someone is connected, okay, and there's some deltas that they should be kind of downloaded in the background, or at least they should have that option of downloading it in the background. Okay, I think there are pros and cons of doing that, but at least we should have an option that, if this person is connected and there's some delta that it's downloaded in the background, and basically that date auto updates to kind of say that they've been connected and they've successfully downloaded. Maybe you already considered that.
Yeah, I think that is. I also think about that one. The only concern is like the size. So maybe we can think of what is the more acceptable size. If the size is not, is less than certain amount, maybe that whenever it's connected, it would download in the background. If it's like more than certain, certain size, I think maybe it requires some kind of action to do it. I just worry like it suck all the data and then it affects the use up all the data and then the connectivity and then run off data bundle or wherever to perform the clinical needs. That's my only concern. But maybe we can think of something like based on how big is the delta, the diff.
Yeah, because we're dealing with deltas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the delta actually becomes relatively small if the updates are being done frequently, right?
Yeah, so it's frequent.
So if someone has to wait until they decide, let's say 3 weeks later, then most likely that delta is much bigger. But if, let's say, they ended up getting connected every day and there was 1 or 2 patients that needed to be updated, then it wouldn't take such too much to handle itself.
Yes, totally agree. And then, I totally agree. If the more frequent the sync happen, the smaller the size.
Anyway, it's something worth considering as part of the design. I'm not sure what other people think. It can also be disruptive, but no, every time you have to kind of go to the server. But if it's happening in the background, anyway, I'd be interested to hear what other people think.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear from CDM team and also LAC team from their perspective.
Derek speaking.
Hi, Derek.
To some extent, I would agree to both of the suggestions from your side and Martin's side. But I was thinking of another way. Would we allow these updates to take place, or for example, like coming up with another button on the settings of the app, just like a real-time sync? Now we call it we have a real-time sync button, just like the one we have currently. Then it has to download like everything else, both the cohorts all together, and at the same time do synchronization of form data.
Yeah, that's one of the options that we consider. To get the cohorts delta and also historical data, delta data on demand for synchronization. And I think what Martin proposed is that if usually the delta should be relatively small, and should that be automatically happening in the background once connectivity is available? I think that is the one that we would like to hear you guys, whether you think this is a great idea or you have concern that it might be it might interrupt the normal activities and things like that.
That's fine.
I don't think there would be interruption of normal activity if it's happening in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Lars?
And I think it's a great idea. Martin, go ahead.
Edda, can
you
hear
ahead.
Me? So,
yes.
Yeah, Lawrence, thanks for input. Edda, the way we have the synchronization button for forms within mUzima. You know, I think that's what Derek was talking about, something similar.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's exactly what.
That's not correct. What I meant
Derek,
was, sorry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, what I meant was we have a real-time sync like a button that you're supposed to select on settings of the app, whereby if you select that particular or you tick it, then it tells you that maybe when there is connection, then the app would sync to the server. Maybe my thought was if we would like indicate another button that also would sync together all together both the data cohort and the forms, or maybe add a function to the same on settings that now will pick up both update of the data cohort and the forms directly.
Yeah.
Do you?
I like the second option better.
Okay.
Where we are not creating, where we're not creating separate buttons to sync different things. No, versus just making it either run in the background and do everything where possible. But no, we obviously have to figure out from a technical standpoint what if things kind of hang in the middle and stuff like that.
That's okay.
So essentially, Derek, you're saying they enable real-time sync, right, of complete form data. If you check that, we could add functionalities also enable real-time sync of cohorts as basically enable real-time sync of data should have sync of form data and downloading of cohort delta basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
that's what this is Derek, right?
Thanks. Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So like
go ahead, Eda, sorry.
Yeah. So for this, I think it would be we also have that in mind as well. And I would prefer this to be a separate option instead of like tying it with the complete form data sync for one major reason is that what if like we the cohort delta say that I need to remove one of your clients, but then on your complete form data is already have some of the saved complete form data, and then I think it will create some, we will like missing some of the additional data that because of this data wipe or data remove. That's really my concern. So I would prefer it to be a separate option. At the same time, and we need to be very careful with that, as in terms of the workflow, which ones to come first? Because go ahead.
Ed, I agree with you. That's a very good point. But no, the order is even when you're doing how to say forced delta retrieval, you have to make sure that you're not removing. You have to make sure that you synchronize any old data into the server before you remove that person, right? So that's by correct. Nature, actually, your point makes it more important to link those two, because every time you're gonna be downloading data, you have to upload. So every time you're gonna be downloading delta cohort, you have to upload any completed forms, right?
Correct,
Hello?
correct. I think it's actually the same workflow that we have. Like, you cannot download the new version. You cannot remove the old version of the form template before you finish, completing all and syncing all these complete form data using that particular form template. So we can we can adopt something similar, approach. I think there's a lot of like more specific. We need to write it clearly in terms of the specification and then the sequence.
Yes.
I think we know what we're talking about, but I think it's very easy to make mistake here. Yeah.
Yes, no, I agree with you, Eda. but no, when you think about it, and maybe this is not the best forum, is because those things are so connected. No, because you cannot download a cohort without uploading any data for that's on the. No, it just might make sense to actually link those two processes as part of. Yeah. So if you have a button that says, you know, down like upload, no, automatically upload the forms or synchronize the form data. No, it would make sense to also just after that see if there's cohort change, because you have everything cleaned up at that point, right?
Yeah.
So it's, cohort change and then basically download the cohort delta.
Yeah. I think for our case here is this is a bit more complicated than just like syncing all the complete form data, because there might be also some draft form data that's saved. What to do with those? So it add another layer of complexity. That's how I see it. So let's say that one of the core members is supposed to remove because it's no longer eligible for this core definition, and there's still like a incomplete form data, say for this particular client, and certain thing need to be complete. Either this needs to be removed or finish as a complete form data so that it's sent to the server before that wiping this client record on the device.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this one is it's good. It's good that we have these discussions. I think that's great. I think we need to, what makes instead of the flow, when to prompt what and what need to be triggered to do what. I think we have the basic. I think we all have like basic agreements. Form data, that part. I would like to us to discuss a little bit further. What makes sense? What is not annoying? Because I think as going forward with with implementation, I think the users become more experienced. I think it's maybe we don't need to find the new users in the past that somehow they keep having a lot of incomplete form data store, and they did not realize it's there. And then it ended up like Lawrence and Derek, they realized that, oh, they have tons of those store saved there, and for this kind of scenario, and it will be problematic for them how to resolve that, what makes sense or not. Yeah.
I think that was also works.
Derek, go ahead.
I think your last suggestion is also okay.
Okay. Cool. And then on the Android side, right now it's not possible to remove the download cohort. Just like for scenario that let's say this provider no longer want to track on a particular download cohort, we need to have an option for them to delete them as well. Because right now, once you download the cohort, it just stay there. You cannot remove it. So, do you guys think it's important feature that to give the options for the providers? Let's say that they downloaded the wrong one. So we give the option for them to remove it. Is it important enough for us to make it like a must-have item?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about this, but basically what we've been doing here is we are the ones who've been downloading the cohorts to the device and setting up the device. That one would mean also that when synchronizing of delta cohort will be taking place, it will take specifically depending on the cohort that was earlier downloaded on the device. Maybe the provider will not need to delete anything from the cohort, I would say. And also the cohort is so helpful to the providers whereby if that particular list of clients is still existing, they would check through the list of clients to find out whether a particular patient they want to see exists or not. I think the list, I'm not sure, but I think it's better for it to have it there, I would say.
Okay.
I don't know what the other members would suggest.
So if the reason I asked is that it would be, of course, it would be awesome to have all these features, but then because of the priority and things like that, whether this would be like on top priority or it's just something that nice to have, is that nice to have, we'll move it to worry about in the next version instead of like like a future version instead of the next version that we work on.
And I think my comment to that would be it would just depend on who is allowed to do that, because if we only let the implementers be able to do that, then I think I'd go by that, and like letting it open for the users to do. Because I'm imagining if they have a cohort of say 120 patients and they drop it, the out of experimenting or just trying to check out what it does, that's another whole. They could easily consume bundles for home and setting up the device again.
Yeah. So maybe yeah, I think if I hear it right from you guys that probably for the next version that we work on, we don't really need this for the reasons that you worry that the provider might remove the cohort by accident, and then actually and then when they need to re-download it, it's going to consume so much data bundle, like to avoid them to remove it by accident.
Okay, and that's great. That's good.
So maybe we'll move this to like something that to consider in the future. That's nice to have. Maybe right now there's no urgent needs.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
I got disconnected a little bit.
Okay, hi.
I'm worried about this. I might have missed the conversation, but there's a synchronization issue that will come in because if I try, it seems to me that if I try to download the Delta and I cannot because there are some incomplete forms for whatever reason,
yes,
then I shouldn't download anything. Is that correct? Like it's either now I'm just kind of trying to how will the no. So on the I'm just trying to understand here. So when I download the cohort back to the device, right? How will I know that that is the Delta per se? So let's say device number 1 was synchronized 1 month ago. Device number 2 was synchronized 2 weeks ago, right? Device number 3 was synchronized a week ago. So each of those, they are different. The status of the code, was different, right? So just trying to understand. So when the device pings the server, is it gonna basically ping all the changes since this date to this cohort? Is that how it's gonna work?
Yeah. Use the timestamp on the last sync datetime on the cohort, and then to cross-check with the server, like for this particular particular cohort members last sync info, the recent active date, and then the recent inactive date. I think from that we can get the diff. Yeah, so that would be small. So that's why, and of course we want to do the marker first. I think if we do the marker like 1 and 0, so it will filter out the list even faster, and then use those 2 columns to get the diff. That's what I have in mind. So that it will reduce this. I mean, it will improve the speed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk during the design call, also on how to best do it on the mobile device. And yeah, if there's a bigger team there, because a lot of people have dealt with sync issues, And essentially, yeah, we're really just reinventing synchronization. And there might be a better way of doing it that some of us non-technical people might not be aware of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll bring it up as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So just FYI, the design, the next Wednesday is a little bit late for you guys' time. It's like 10 o'clock your time. At first, we want to pick the earlier time, but it's like 7 o'clock. As Simon reminded me that actually at that time the quality of the data, the internet is very busy, and it will end up to be so difficult to even say or hear anything. So actually later time would be less traffic, and hopefully the quality of the call will be better. So that's why we picked the later time slot.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just from about the thinking and whether having 4 tablets all synced 4 weeks ago or a week ago and maybe today, when it's I thought it would be based on the encounter, because at least for CDM, each time the clinician comes in or the patient comes in, there'll be a particular encounter, and hopefully if the encounter 4 weeks ago, it would basically have the date on that particular time, and 3 weeks ago it would have the date, and today it would have the today's date. So if it's to sync, I think my understanding, I think in order not to lose the data, we should be based on the date, and the one that has the latest information, the one that was synced with an encounter today would have all the other 3 encounters that the other tablets do not have. Just trying to understand the discussion, and if that could be, basing it on the time, could it be important?
Yeah, so in terms of the cohort definition, it's really depend. Each cohort will have different definitions. For example, like for CDM, cohort definition is probably based on anyone who fill a certain type of specific CDM forms, and then will be in your cohort. And if that's the case, we would, let's say that if provider A fill out like a dispensary form or screening form, and then provider B for patient A, let's say that. And now if this information is sent to the server, and this patient A now become part of the cohort member for this CDM cohort. However, provider B would not have this information unless they do like a delta sync, a cohort sync to get the information. Say that, oh, now patient A should be eligible for the same cohort that on my device, but I don't have this information. Now it's eligible. So you have the option to decide whether you want to sync this information or not. And if you decide that, like do the automatic, synchronization and things like that, and then the patient A record and historical data would be synced to your device. So that is what we're talking about. Does it make sense? Just like one simple example here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just like about me on my device, but also like the information that I send to the server would affect who should be in the cohort, right? And then this information, when each provider do the same thing, and then you get the contributors for all these like changes of the cohorts list because of different information getting into the server side and then process. And then you will have an updated cohort list based on the eligibility that, maybe data changes, because like the data changes will move your cohort member in and out of the cohort. And then after that, we share these updates complete list that anyone can sync to the server and get it. They can decide to get it now or get it later. That's the whole, that's what we're trying to discuss about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I hope I answered your questions, or maybe I misunderstood.
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. So I think the last one is pretty much what we talk about, just to sync the diff instead of like wiping out and do a fresh download to save the data bundle. I just want to include here so that when a developer work on it, this is something like include on specification. That's pretty much what we talk about as well. So is there other things that we did not consider but we should?
Yeah, and I just want to point out among the considerations for the automatic download of the Delta would be the frequency of checking whether there is some data to download on the server side. I think we would want to have a mechanism of setting that frequency, because if it is too frequent, I think it may also affect the users of the device. Yeah.
So what I have in mind is like to allow the user to set the frequency. You know, the same thing that, you know, how frequent they want to do the real-time synchronization, how often they want to, you know, things like that. So I think we want just to give like the flexibility for users to define, hey, I want to be synced every week, every month, every 2 days or whatever, so that they are the one who design the implementation. They're the one who design how often this reminder is supposed to be.
Good.
Yeah. Because I don't want to come back and redo. Try to think of like possible options that fit most people, if not everyone. Yeah.
No, this is a good conversation. Yeah, Eda, again, if you could share what you have, and then some of us can do it also. Maybe Monday morning.
Okay, sure.
Just it just strikes me that there's, as you're saying, a little bit more to some of these things that you might not have considered.
Yeah, it looks really easy and simple, but there's a lot of things we need to consider before we create more problems. Yeah. 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 So I basically I just want to jot down all these things that we, you know, kind of to bring up the discussions. It doesn't mean that this is the right way or wrong way. I think we just like stimulate the design discussions. That's pretty much. So I really appreciate everyone's contributions and share your perspectives. And I think I will go back and update this document, and then we'll circulate again. I really hope that we all can put a little bit time to think about it, and then we can continue these discussions on the Monday call, because I really, really want to have this, you know, for us to be kind of in the more ready stage before Wednesday call, so that Simon and I can have something more concrete to present and discuss. So that's what we plan. Go ahead.
Eda, just a quick question. How do you handle, just more generic, how do you handle change in cohort definitions? So suppose I have a cohort, say, you know, CDM patients,
Yes.
and then I've changed how the definition within that cohort is.
So I think, that's one of the observations I noticed on the expanded cohorts as well. So once you save the cohort definitions, you are not able to edit it. You can only view it. So the reason I don't want to touch this part right now is that I worry it's going to affect the downloaded cohorts member list, and it might be, you know, because of the change of the cohort definition, it might dramatically, the data will be huge. You know, it could be huge. So I think this is something that we can consider in future versions, but not the next version. Right now, I don't think we have that much resources to. It's massive, you know. Much more massive that it appear again, you know. So that's something that I don't want to touch for this version. Yeah.
Okay, but at least we can, you know, note it for a subsequent version, or at least something from a design. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was like, oh yeah, we need to, I was like, oh, we need to edit it, but then the consequence could be huge. Yeah.
I sorry I think it is currently possible to edit the cohort definition from the expanded cohort module.
Oh really? I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because there's like an edit button, but actually it's just view.
I don't know why, but if there's a button at the bottom of the page. If you open the view page, at the bottom we have edit and we have close.
Oh, maybe I did not pay attention to that button. Yeah. Okay, let me take a look as well. If that's the case, I think we need to disable the edit one. How to say? I think for our version, for the next version, I think we should not make it editable for that, because I worry about the major change of the cohort and then the delta, and right now we don't even know how to handle it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I prefer to do it in a later version. If for example, if CDM say that now we have a new core definition, I think we just simply to retire the old one and then to use the new one. That's what I would suggest, just to reduce the confusions. That's a workaround for that. Yeah. But these are Greg's points. I think we should include them update on this document, and then so that everyone can think further and we can discuss more on the next Monday, if that's okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Okay, cool. So the last item is just want to touch base on the error resolutions updates, and I know that both teams have been resolving them. I just want to touch base that if there's any challenges or anything unusual that you observe that you want to share. CDM team and LAC team. Derek? Lawrence, go ahead.
Nothing major either. I think what we have are just a few questions that need to be ascertained. Like we need to confirm they are the pre-existing patients because we do not have demographics on the hierarchy for them.
Okay.
So yeah, but pretty much it's moving smooth.
Okay, great. So pretty much majority of them are still the duplicate records, just because they simply did not have internet access to search against the server in real time and create new one in the device.
Yes, and I think that continues to be a challenge. I even received a call today of a CEO who could not just search patients and could not find them, but they're actually there, registered patients. So okay. I think for an ignorant person, they might end up registering them again. That's a problem.
What's the problem?
It's just purely network coverage.
Okay. And Derek?
I would say also nothing much from this, but I tried. I know you pinged me on. You pinged us on email. I together with Vitalis about the errors on production server, and by then we were also having a look on those particular errors and managed to resolve 10, and 5 of the errors were errors that were coming in because of from the test patient, of which I am one of the test patients on prod. So far we have currently 16 forms only left on the server. And these particular forms, they have issues that we've not understood yet, I and Vitalis. And just on the email, on the loop of the email that we were discussing on, we have attached a screenshot of exactly what the carbon of contention is. And after this, we'll be checking on or visiting Survey to look at what the errors is because we could not really understand exactly the change in UUID of forms. I think Vitalis is here. He can be able to explain more on what he saw as I try to share maybe a copy of the same error message.
Yeah, Derek, just before Vitalis goes on, maybe I'm just, I don't understand how error resolution works as well, but so the error, Vitalis, it will help me to understand the error you sent, the example of, where there's no provider with person ID, this number, just what we think is going on there, or at least Survey might help us. It's more for my education than anything.
For that one, I think the person who filled that form is not a provider. So what they need to do is to add that person to the provider table.
Yeah, this is exactly the one that we mentioned last time, that they create a provider without linking to a person. So that's why it show up there.
So this is the admin issue, right?
This is admin issue, exactly. Okay. So that's exactly what Augustine's team helped us to clean up.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So the reason, so the reason I keep asking you guys is we want to get the most common error so that we can help to resolve them so that it would not happen in the future, except the duplications. Yeah. So this is the one that we spot like a week ago. We already contacted the system admin team for them to clean up their setup.
Okay, sounds good. Helps.
Yeah. Cool. So we're running out of time. And any other things anyone want to share before we wrap this up?
Just on that, does it survive with you assistance, or maybe how would you get over this?
Well, didn't we hear that it's Miancha who's working on it?
I've also been working on adding some of the providers that are not existing. So, but by checking, you'll find that those providers are existing in the provider table. So I don't know. Maybe we can chat.
Can I just give a brief background? What happened to those? So what happened is that the system admin team go ahead just to create a provider on the provider manage provider page, without linking it to the users or the person. So because it requires the provider also to be a person and users for most of our providers, and that linkage is not there. So they simply just to create a name and a provider ID without linking this information to a person. For example, like that, a patient is also a person. So in order for for us to know who this is, not just to have a patient ID, but also that when you create a patient, it's supposed to create a person record as the root. So a person, someone can be a person, can be a provider. For example, like I'm just making it up. Like for example, let's say there's a record for me. I could be, if they create a record for me as a user, Ada Young, let's say that. So that is like a person record already created. There's also a user account for me as a user. Let's say that later on, because I become a patient, and then even they create a patient record for me, it will link to the same person record as me, so that they know that, oh, Ada is a patient, is also a user, but it's belong to the same person, Ada, like that. So we're missing that linkage right now. That's why this message show up.
All right.
Yeah, all right. We hear you.
Yeah. I just want to give like a background why it happened. So it's more like this process set up on the implementation side. So we already pinged them to update. I think they clean up some, but they still have like about a dozen of them did not still need to work on. Yeah. I hope it makes sense. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll chat again next Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.